Welcome to The Secret Case. Today we'll delve into the disturbing story of Tamara Samsonova, also known as the Cannibal Grandma. Her case has captured the world's attention due to her horrendous crimes and the strange figure she represents. From her childhood to her arrest, Tamara's life is a dark and fascinating journey that we'll explore in depth. Before we begin, I invite you to subscribe to our channel and activate notifications so you don't miss our analysis of the most disturbing and fascinating crime cases. Tamara Samsonova was born in 1941 in St. Petersburg, Russia. From a young age, Tamara showed signs of a difficult life. She grew up in a dysfunctional family and her childhood was said to have been marked by emotional and physical abuse. Her relationship with her mother was strained, and her father was a war veteran who suffered from psychological problems, which affected her family environment. Tamara attended school, where she was an average student, but she always felt like an outsider. From her youth, she began to develop an interest in death and the macabre. Her fascination with the dark side of life intensified as she grew older, and it is said that by her teens she was already thinking about themes related to death and the afterlife. After completing her studies, Tamara began working as a nurse, a profession that allowed her to be close to life and death. Although there are no known serious crimes in her early years, it is rumored that she had complicated and violent relationships with her partners. Her friendships were few and, over time, she began to isolate herself from the people around her. Her life began to change dramatically in the 1990s, when the situation in Russia became unstable. Economic difficulties led Tamara to fall into despair. In this context, it is said that her interest in death turned into an obsession. She began to experiment with dark rituals and practices that brought her closer to crime. In her later years, Tamara moved into an apartment building in St. Petersburg, where she made friends with her neighbors. Although she initially seemed like a kind woman, those who knew her began to notice her erratic behavior. Over time, she became a lonely figure, viewed with suspicion by her neighbors. Rumors began to circulate about his strange habits, which included collecting personal items from acquaintances and the strange disappearance of some people who lived in the same building. His surroundings were decaying, and poverty and misery began to plague the place. Tamara's first known crime occurred in 1996, when a neighbor was reported missing. Authorities began investigating, but found no conclusive leads. However, the case became more disturbing when bodies began to appear in the area. In 2015, Tamara was arrested after a neighbor mysteriously disappeared. During the investigation, detectives found evidence that Tamara had been involved in murderous activities. Upon further examination, they discovered that she had been killing and dismembering her victims, some of whom were acquaintances and friends. Police, upon questioning Tamara, were shocked to discover that she had been committing murders for years. The atrocities included not only the murder of her victims, but also cannibalistic practices. She was often described as a figure similar to Baba Yaga, a character from Slavic mythology who is associated with witchcraft and cannibalism. One of the most disturbing details of her case is that Tamara confessed to having cooked parts of her victims and used them in her food. This revelation left authorities and the public in shock, and her case became a hot topic in the media. Tamara was brought to trial in 2017, where her case attracted international attention. During the trial, her defense attempted to argue that she was mentally incapacitated, but prosecutors argued that she was fully aware of her actions. Despite the evidence against her and shocking confessions, the defense tried to play the insanity card. After a lengthy and highly publicized trial, Tamara was sentenced to 25 years in prison for her crimes. The authorities decided that she needed psychiatric treatment in addition to her sentence, as she had shown clear signs of mental problems throughout the proceedings. Once in prison, Tamara continued to be a topic of interest for both the media and fellow inmates. Prison conditions were harsh, but her notoriety made her an almost mythical figure. Tamara often spoke out about her crimes, which left other inmates both intrigued and terrified. During her time in prison, psychologists attempted to understand her behavior and motivations. Tamara became the subject of criminology studies, where experts sought to understand how someone could cross the line into cannibalism. Her case raised questions about mental health and a human being's capacity for redemption. Today, Tamara Samsonova is still serving her sentence. The latest available information indicates that she has been transferred to a psychiatric facility, where she continues to receive treatment. Her notoriety has persisted, and some consider her a symbol of horror in criminality. Reports suggest that Tamara has continued to speak about her crimes to psychologists and experts studying her. Some even see her as a tragic figure, someone who fell into the abyss of madness and despair. Her story remains a topic of discussion on forums about crime and mental health, and has inspired books and documentaries about her life. Today, Tamara Samsonova is still serving her sentence. The latest available information indicates that she has been transferred to a psychiatric facility, where she continues to receive treatment. Her notoriety has persisted, and some consider her a symbol of horror in criminality. Reports suggest that Tamara has continued to speak about her crimes to psychologists and experts studying her. Some even see her as a tragic figure, someone who fell into the abyss of madness and despair. Her story remains a topic of discussion on forums about crime and mental health, and has inspired books and documentaries about her life. As well as being the subject of criminal research, Tamara Samsonova has inspired representations in popular culture. Her story has been dramatized in films and documentary series that address cannibalism and crime from a psychological perspective. These works have helped cement her place in the history of notorious criminals, but have also sparked criticism of the glorification of violence. His case has been used as a case study in modern criminology, where the factors that can lead an individual to commit such heinous acts are analyzed. This phenomenon has opened the debate on the desensitization of society towards violence and brutality, and how this can influence human behavior. The case of Tamara Samsonova is a stark lesson in how life circumstances can lead an individual to cross unimaginable lines. The combination of a difficult childhood, untreated mental problems and a lonely life created a breeding ground for tragedy. Her story is a reminder that behind every criminal, there can be a complex and disturbing story. While her crimes are incomprehensible, it is also important to reflect on how society can intervene before things reach such a violent extreme. Tamara's story is undoubtedly a warning about the dangers of dehumanization and social abandonment. Thank you for joining us in this analysis of the case of Tamara Samsonova, the cannibal grandmother. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like it, share it and subscribe to The Secret Case. What do you think about this story? Leave us your comments below.